water bottle up.
is mainly word problems.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there. Thank you.
Woohoo!
But it's interpreting the remainder, what's left over. And as I said before, yesterday we didn't spend that time doing that. We just did review because I wanted to get more practice. Today I want you guys to understand what that remainder actually is, all right, in a word problem. Because, let's be honest, I don't do a division problem on a piece of paper like we've been doing it just every day. I don't do that, okay? But what I do is I see stuff like, hey, I'm gonna buy 100 cups and I'm gonna invite 35 people over. How many cups could each person have, or whatever, some stupid question like that. So then whenever I buy it, I have to realize, how. Well, let's talk about cupcakes. If I do a multiplication problem, if like, hey, if I want everybody to have 2 cupcakes because they're little ones, and there's 18 of us in here, then I have to think in my head. I'm not going to do the multiplication. I'm going to say 18 and 18 is 36. I need to buy 36. However, division is the opposite of that, right? You got to think, well, I've got all this stuff here. I've got $1,000, and I have 18 kids. I want to split this $1,000 up with you guys. And then I'm going to have some money left over, and then that money left over I'm going to donate to charity or whatever. So then I have to say, well, each person gets an equal amount, so that the remainder is what we're looking at today. All right. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on this screen here because I just wanted to do these earlier problems right here. Problem of the day: what number between 420 and 480 is divisible by 2, 3, 5, 6, 9, and 10? Explain how you solve this problem. Now, remember yesterday we kind of did this. We broke it down problem at a time. Remember that? We broke it down step at a time. So let's do that right here. What do you think it is, Asher?
It's 40.
It's what?
40.
440? So he says it's 440. Is that, let's look at that. Is that between 420 and 480?
Yeah.
Okay. Can we divide this by 2 evenly?
Yeah.
Right, it's 2 and that's a 0. Yeah, we can do that. Can we put 3 into that evenly?
Yes. Yeah. No. Yeah. No.
You gotta kind of think about it. You gotta say, well,
you can put it in evenly.
some of you are just guessing at this point, but you can say, well, 1, and then this is going to be 4 times. That's 12. 2, bring down your 0. Is 3 going to 20 evenly? So it doesn't look like 440 is going to be our answer then, right? Because it has to be.
No, it doesn't evenly.
Doesn't have a 3, right? So we gotta think.
6 times.
We gotta think again. So 440 is not going to be a choice.
2.
So what choice are we going to have to? Holly, what do you think?
What about something like 440 because 3 goes into 40?
So she says 430. Well, okay, let's look at it. Will 2 go into that evenly?
No.
It will. Look, it ends in a 0. So 2 will go into it. She says what?
I thought that was 450.
Let's try 43 first. All right, so we're going to do 430 divided by 3. It goes into it once. 13, does that go into that? No, but it goes into it 4 times. That's 12. That's 1. Does 3 go into 10 evenly?
No.
430 is not one of them either.
I know one.
Okay.
I know one.
So we're getting stopped right there.
I
Sit
know
down.
one.
You do it every day. Go sit. So, what's another choice? 440's out. 430's out.
I know one.
What do you think, Maddie?
470.
470. Let's try that one then. So we have 470. So we know that 2 always goes into the 0, right? We know that. So we always got to go to the 3 now. 470 divided by 3. It's 1. Subtract, you get 17. This goes into what? 5 times?
Yeah.
15. Subtract, you get 2. Bring down your 0. Does 3 go into 20 evenly?
No.
So it's not.
I know
Not 470.
Mr. Young, I got a real good one.
He's got a real good one. What is it?
460.
Let's try 460 next. All right. So,
That's what I'm talking about.
So we know that the 2 goes into that. So we're gonna have to try the 3 again. So far, that's been the one that hasn't worked. So 3 goes into 4 how many times?
1.
This is a 3. Subtract that, you get 16. Bring down to 6. That goes into that 5 times. That's 15. Subtract that, you're gonna get 1. Bring down your Z. Does 3 go into 10?
No.
So not that one.
None of them.
Well, it must be 450, right? Let's try 450.
I said 450 and 440 doesn't work.
450. So 2 definitely goes into it, yes, because of the 0 here. 3 goes into it 1 time. Subtract it, we get 1. Bring down your 5. This
This
goes
one's
into
a piece of
5
5
times.
times,
15. 0. Bring down your 0. 3 doesn't go into that 0 times. Hey, that works.
We gotta check it
So
though.
that works.
Yeah, check it.
Well, okay. 150
That's what I should have said.
times 3. That's 0. That's 450, right? So far that's good.
What about 6?
Well, 6. Do we know if 10 goes into 450?
No.
How do we know that?
Because
The 0, she said at the end. So yes, 10 definitely goes into it. Does the 5 go into that?
yeah.
We know that because, again, the 0, right? So it's these 2 here kind of holdouts. 6. So how many times will 6 go into 4?
0
How
times.
many times will 6 go into 45?
7.
Thank you, Colton. 7. What's 7 times 6?
42.
Bring this down. Subtract it. You get 3. Bring this down. 0. How many times 6 go into 30?
5.
Okay. 0. So 75 times 6 if I'm checking it. 30. 3 up there, 45. 6 works. I'm thinking that this might be our answer. We gotta try the 9 now. Let's see if this is 450 divided by 9. How many times is 9 going to 45?
5 and 1 0.
1 0. Good job, Colton. We know that works.
Yeah.
So it looks to me like the answer is indeed 450. Now you guys went all the way around those problems. Now the easier way we could have figured that out is if we would have thought in the beginning that 5, 2, and 10 goes into all those numbers you guys talked about, right? So we decided that none of the 3s go in there, so we just kept moving on, right? And as it says here, I figured out which numbers were divisible by 10. The largest number out of these, only 450 was divisible by 9. And then it was also divisible by 2. So that's kind of how they started out, saying, well, I started with 10. Yeah, that's divisible. Well, 9 going to 45. Hey, that works. And they went from there. Okay? So let's go ahead and dive into our lesson for today. Right here. Oh, it's not there. Right here. All right. Interpret the remainder. The essential question this entire chapter has been what strategies can be used to divide whole numbers? So let's dive in. What are these trees? Evergreen trees? Yours probably looks better than mine. I don't know.
That looks like Wisconsin. That looks like Wisconsin.
Maybe. A state park has 257 evergreens to plant equally in 9 areas. How many evergreens are planted in each area? What does the remainder represent? All right, so the question is, what does the remainder represent? And also it just says how many. So we're going to 2 problems we're going to answer here. One, we're going to answer what's the answer? How many can you put equally in each area? And then the second part is, what does that extra stuff mean in this problem? So you guys are all pretty good. Take that back. After looking at your homework yesterday, you're really good at dividing, most of you, and you're good at checking it. We say, how many times will 9 go into 25?
2.
We put a 2. What's, remember,
18.
always put this so you don't forget. That's your next step. 2 times 9 is 18. We already got that. Now we subtract.
7.
So this is, yeah, some of you have to do this. Makes that a 15, which is 7. How many times will 9 go into 77?
8.
You guys agree it's 8 times?
Yes.
Is it because it's Asher you guys are agreeing?
Yeah.
No.
Ah,
No,
that's not
We
8. And what is 8 times 9?
72.
Somebody besides Asher, what is 77 minus 72?
5.
Nope, sorry.
Now, do we have anything else to bring down?
No.
So it's remainder of 5.
So the remainder of 5. So that what the question is asking now is it said how many evergreens can you plant in one area? So what is that answer going to be? 28. Casey says 28. What's the remainder 5 represent though? What is it, Ireland?
5 left over.
5 what left over?
5 trees left over.
5 trees are left over that you can't put in those 9 spots, right? Those are the little dots that that we made that we couldn't put back into it, so we had those left over because you have to have equal amounts in it. So that's what those represent.
So basically, the remainder doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah. So there's 28, and then each area, and then there's 5 evergreens left over. Next page.
This is easy.
It's pretty simple, yeah. Again, it says the question is there's 174 guests invited to dinner. Each table can have 8 guests. How many tables are needed? So how many tables are needed here? Well, we have how many times will 8 go into 1?
0.
I put a little 0 there just to remind you that nothing goes there. Sailor, how many times does 8 go into 17? 2. And then we do our next step, which is multiply. So what's 8 times 2, Sailor?
16.
Thank you, Sailor, who is, looks like she's coming down off the floor there. Gavin, what's 17 minus 16? 1, yeah. Now we ask, how many times does 8 go inside of 14 evenly without going over? We're going to get what, Emma? She says it's 1. 1 times 8 is equal to what? 8. Subtract it, what are you going to get? I always find this funny when kids do this. They're always like, well, I got to borrow from this, makes this a 0, makes this a 14. Well, you had 14 to begin with. You're just doing it again. 6 is your answer. So you have 21 remainder of 6. But what does that 6 mean?
How much is left over? It means 6.
How much what's left over?
How much stuff is left over?
How
How much tables?
How many tables are left? We only have.
Yes.
How many guests are left over?
That's how many guests are left over, right? We have 21 tables are going to be needed with 8 people at it. And then that means there's 6 guests that are going to be sitting at a table where there's going to be 2 open spots, right? So they can invite 2 more people. Why not? It might seem easy to you right now, but trust me, some of you, it's tough to look at that number and say, what does the number even mean? I just see a number. A tent is put up with 7 poles. How many tents can we put up with 200 poles? So we have the 200 divided by 7. So what are we going to do?
Divide it.
We're going to divide it. So 200
200.
divided by 7, Ray says. And Ray, how many times will 7 go into 2? 0 times. How many times will 7 go into 20?
Three times?
Huh?
2 times?
2 times, because 7 times 3 is 21. What's 7 times 2, Ray?
14.
Subtract those, what do you get?
You get 6.
6. Bring down your 0. How many times will 7 go into 60? Anybody. 7 goes into 60
8 times.
8 times.
I got that.
What's 8 times 7?
56.
And then you subtract those, you're going to get?
4.
So we have 28 remainder 4. So it says interpret the remainder. So what's the remainder?
4.
4. There are blank poles left over. So how many poles are left
4.
over? 4 poles left over, which is not enough to make another tent because it takes how many poles to set up a tent?
7.
Right? So you got 4 that are just left over in the back of the truck that you're not going to use. So a total of 28 tents can be put up with 7 poles each out of the 200.
Miss Young, the independent
Just call me Mrs. Young.
That's Mr. Young.
Mrs.
Right,
Young
that's
was
Mr. Young.
Mr.
Mrs. Young,
Young.
that's all it's with.
All right, so there are. This is pretty easy. This one here, actually. There are. Sound like you call me Mrs. Young. There are 50 students traveling in vans on a field trip. Each van seats 8 students. How many vans are needed? Well, what's our problem here, Ethan? What? Huh? Sailor, what's our problem? So 50 divided by 8. Now, when we're done with this problem, I'll explain something to you. So how many times will 8 go into 5?
0.
0 times. How many times will 8 go into 50?
6 times.
So Sailor, what's 8 times 6? No, take that back. Colton Johnson, what's 8 times 6? Come on, I've told you this before. What is it? No. 48.
I answered it for him.
So you're going to subtract. Casey, when you get 50 minus 48, what do you get? Think about this. You got to borrow, makes this a 4, makes this a 10. What's 10 minus 8? 2. Nothing to bring down. So we have a 6 remainder of 2. So what does this mean?
There are 6 vans, 2 vans left over.
6 vans needed for those 8 students, right? And that's 48 students. So what's this 2 stand for?
There's 2 vans left over.
2 vans?
Kids.
2 kids.
2 kids. So there's 2. These are the bad kids that we're leaving behind.
Why couldn't they just shove them in?
These
Why couldn't they shove them in? Shove them in the trunk.
These are your Colton, or these are your Asher Thompsons and your Ireland Machado.
What?
The 2 kids left over that you don't take with you. So, what am I not doing?
You're not killing.
Well, I'm not doing that. What am I not doing in my problems? Maddie, I haven't been checking them. I gotta check them, right? So I gotta do this. I say, what is 6 times 8? 48. Plus the leftover, which is?
2.
That gives me 50. So I'll make sure that I check it. Check.
There's an easy way to do it 6 times 8.
Rhymes.
Yeah.
How many payments of $10 would it take Samuel to purchase a scooter? These are way too easy problems. You can do this one in your head, actually, but go ahead. Laura?
It's 7
She says, because again, $79 is our scooter, $10. She says 10 times 7, so it'd be how many payments? 7 payments.
With $9 left over.
And then you got to make a payment of what?
$9.
With a payment of $9 payment.
Miss Young, why couldn't she just save for 1 more week? Why couldn't she save 4 more weeks to get another $1?
calling him Miss Young?
I am not wrong. Why are you calling him Miss Young? I do not.
Mrs. Hodges made 144 muffins for a bake sale. She puts them into tins of 5 muffins each. How many tins of muffins can she make?
99.
So what's my problem?
For 144.
Ray, quiet. Raise your hand. What is my problem, Brighton? What's the
144 divided by 5.
Yes, ma'am. 144 divided by what?
5.
Okay. So how many times will 5 go into 1? This is just for Brighton. How many times will 5 go into 1?
0.
How many times will 5 go into 14? 2. What's 5 times 2? What do you do now? What do you get?
4.
What do you do now? Now what do you do? How many times will it?
7.
Nope.
8.
8 times, because 8 times 5 is what? Subtract those, what do you get?
4.
Do you have anything to bring down?
No.
So now we got to interpret. We got to. What does this stand for? How many tins of muffins can she make?
She can make 20 tins of muffins.
20.
28 tins.
Yeah, she can make 28 tins. And then what's the 4 mean?
Leftover.
4 leftover what?
It's
Not 10s. Muffins. These are the ones. These are what I like to call whenever I make the taste testers.
Miss Hayes ate all of them but
I take about 4. Like last night, I'm making red velvet cake for my son for his birthday, and so when you take 2 circular cakes and you put them together, you have to cut the top off of one to make it flat, so it lays flat with the other. So that top is like one of the best parts of the cake. You know, the top of the muffin is the best part of the muffin, right? The bottom, you're like the stump, you just won't throw it in the trash, but the top. So the cake, I'm cutting the top of it off. It's kind of crusty. It's soft. I take that off, and then I make little tiny pieces off of that, and then I take my icing that I have left over, take a bite, put a piece of cake in my mouth. Those are the leftovers, right? So that's what these are, the 4 muffins that are left over.
Does that one have like red stuff on here?
That's ink.
No, she ate
I'm
4.
not messy when I cook. What's that, Colton?
So she ate why you're getting frosted. And then her leftovers. And for $1.89.
Last problem here, and then I'll let you guys work. Last problem. How many 8-foot sections of fencing are needed? Now here's why this is an important problem for you. A lot of you, again, you always ask, when do I ever need to use this? Well, guess what? I just used this past summer. Because Mrs. Young wants me to put in a fence. Lots of times I'll just say, yeah, and I'll go out and measure, pretend like I'm going to do it, and then a lot of times we just forget about it and I never have to do it. So I went out and measured the entire backyard. And I actually did this, but let's say I came up with 189 feet. Well, fencing at the store comes in 8-foot sections. Big 8-foot sections, you can buy pre-made fence sections. So now I need to decide how many of those sections do I need.
9 billion.
Okay, so what's my problem going to be here? Ireland.
189 divided by 8.
189 divided by 8. So let's go ahead and do that problem. Ireland, how many times will 8 go into 1?
0 times.
How many times will 8 go into 18?
Twice.
So what do we do now?
Times it.
What do you get?
16.
What do you do now?
Minus 6.
Subtract it.
Minus.
Now what do you get?
2.
Now what do you do?
Bring down your 9.
Now what?
8 goes into 29 3 times.
Okay.
And that would be 24.
All right, now what?
Then you subtract it and you're left with 5.
Do anything else bring down?
No, so it'd be
I don't like it. It's too hard.
So how many sections do I need to buy?
23.
23. And I'll tell you what, 23 sections. And after pricing it, I believe those sections were like $49 each. So I'd have a
$7,000.
No, you said 8 billion.
it'd be $1,127. It didn't ask that, but that's how much it costs to put in a fence. Just to buy the materials. It's not even talking about putting in your post, the concrete. It's a lot of money for this. So what's this 5 mean though?
There's 5 leftover feet.
5 what?
5 leftover feet.
5 feet that are left over. So apparently on that one, we're going to have to take one of these sections. We may have to buy another section. We can't just leave a 5-foot section open, can we?
No.
You can.
I guess you
Could be for that could be for a door, but you can't really. So what we'd have to do is probably say that we're going to buy 24 sections and then cut one of them in a piece. But anyway, I don't believe that's what they're asking for there. But
If you're trying to buy
yeah, they did say 24 sections right there. There you go. So
If you're trying to buy a fence, you better have $1 million.
well, something. I had a guy price a fence. Again, I could do it myself for I think it was $1,400. He wanted me to pay $4,000. I'm like, yeah, see you later. Get out of here. Did that guy come by your house last night to stump grinding?
We have one of those right by our